That was kind of sad.
It was very sad. Okay, my tip today is how I store my fabric.
I love this because there's so many questions I want to ask.
Yeah, I know you're going to have a field day with this one. This is an example of how I would store, let's back it up, my fabric. I have these miniature bolts, and I have a bunch of shelves. And the reason I don't just put them on the bolts, which I'll show you how I do the bolts, is because then when you take one out, if there's too many, they flop over. So I buy these little magazine or book, what are they called?
The magazine holders, I think.
Magazine holders.
Because
this is a fancy one. Usually I just buy white, cheesy ones.
Because you don't really need those for books, because books would stand up on their own.
No, it's good for books too, because you can categorize.
But those are some, like, your coloring books?
Like different quilt books.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of, like, paperback
Like this
books.
is all one collection right
Yes.
here. And when I buy something at the store, I have a hard time going home and just plopping it down. One, because I want to see everything I have. Two, if I go like this, I can actually estimate how much I have on each board. If it's more than a fat quarter, it goes on one of these. It's my rule. If it's a fat quarter, it gets folded and it gets put in a special box. But if it's more than a fat quarter, it's going to go on one of these. The other thing I like about this is when I have little scraps of a fabric left over, the way I fold them, there's a pocket for you to put
Your scraps in?
your scraps
You
in.
almost just stabbed yourself and bled all over your
That
fabric.
would not be good. But there's actually a way to hold scraps of fabric with the real fabric. So when you open it up, you go, yeah, baby, here's a little piece. I don't need to cut it. Can you move a minute? I want to show you
Yes.
something. Oh, never mind. I can do it here. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm fine.
Okay.
The other thing I like about this method is, let's say I only need a fat quarter, or I only need 8 inches. I don't have to unroll this whole board to get the amount I need.
Ooh, it's like having your
Watch.
own little bolt.
Get out of the way. Oh no, I can't get out of the way. I'll show you an overhead afterwards when we cut it. But it's like having your own little bolt. And I can just say, oh, I just need 8 inches. And I can go ahead and just measure off 8 inches and then put the rest away.
But the real question I have about fabric organization is not how you store it, but how do you organize it? Is it by collection? Is it by color? Is it by
depends.
theme?
It depends.
Okay.
If I have a collection, or I will organize it by collection. If I bought something for a specific project, like I'm going to show you tonight, then I'll organize it by project. If they're basics that I just like to have on hand as fillers, then I'll do it by color. So one row in my closet is like basics.
So if somebody,
Then there's collections, and then there's projects.
I'm just curious.
Because I hate cutting into a project fabric.
Well, I just see
But
how
I
read these articles about the perfect way to organize your quilt room, and it's
Well,
always
the
different.
other
and I
thing
always
is,
find it
if you're
interesting.
organizing by project, which I'm going to do, so I'm going to go over here a little bit. The secret to it is these really beautiful, very inexpensive magazine boards. These are the same boards that, if they're 8.5 by 11, they're the same boards you see people buy for magazines.
They are not comic book boards.
They are 8.5 by 11.
Comic book boards are smaller.
They're narrower, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You could use those, but these are 8.5
But
by
they're
11.
not 11. I think they're a little bit shorter than 11. So if you fold your yardage over, it's not going to fit quite
Yeah.
right.
So these come in packs of like, they're 24 point is the weight of the board. They come 100 boards to a pack, so they're very inexpensive.
And you can pick them up on Amazon dirt cheap.
Yes, and what I do is, and
You
once
don't get them at the dollar store?
I don't know, Danny, can we get them at the dollar store?
I've never seen them at the dollar store.
You can get them at a comic book store. A lot of comic book and
We'll
collectible
carry
stores will carry
magazine
them.
boards as well.
But you cannot, like I said, Amazon is the best.
One side is coated, one side is not. I don't like just one board, although you'll see sometimes that's what I use. But I like 2 boards, and I like the coating on the outside, because I feel that that's just more protection for my fabric.
You just
I
like
have no idea.
You just like it's
but
because it's shiny.
I do.
It's like,
but
oh,
I do. I
shiny.
put these sides together like this, and I go ready to wrap. Okay? Now,
I wish I'd met you when you were younger.
No, you're probably very happy you did not. So let's say I get home. I bought a bunch of this fabric at See how, this is how I come home and I go, yeah, okay, no. The first thing I do is fold it so that I can put it on the bolt. I call these bolts.
Yeah.
Put them on the bolt so I can unroll only what I need. Because I hate it when I have to unfold everything to do something. So the first thing,
There's a lady that comes through the shop that won't let me fold the fabric after I cut it.
well,
It really
okay.
irritates her.
She's gonna like this. She's gonna like this idea then.
It makes me laugh.
She'll probably walk in with her own boards and take them home that way. Yeah.
And the first time she was trying to be very political about it, you know, and I could just tell it was driving her nuts. I'm like, if you want to fold, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Thank you.
The secret is to go salvage to salvage first. Now, I'm not perfectly squaring this up. I'm not ironing it at this point because it's going into storage. But I am sort of, you know, making sure it's tidy, you know. And then I'm folding it a half again. We can't see. I'll hold it up.
We can do overhead shot.
I'm folding it in half again.
See,
if you
and
can
you
see
see
what
it.
the salvage
See,
looks
right over there.
what the salvage looks like. There we go.
Yeah.
So I folded it.
You need a code word.
I folded it in half. And then I'm going to put it down and I'm going to fold it in half again. That's all the folding I have to do.
And this is why the magazine boards work better than the comic book boards, because fabric being exactly 44 inches in most cases, or sometimes 42,
Sometimes, yeah.
folding it 4 times is 44 divided by
Right.
4 is 11. And a magazine board is 11 inches wide.
If I really want to be informative, I
Lisa
can.
says 10 3/4.
That's a comic book board.
Right.
So
If-
it's off by 1/4 inch. And you have a little bit of flappiness. And I'm sure if you're somebody like Becky, that probably
If
drives
you
you
really
insane.
want to be good and see some of your lettering, because Danny said, why don't you label them? And I said, because I know what they are. But you could actually leave some of your salvage visible if you want to. I don't. I put my salvage on the inside. But you could put your salvage on the outside. I just think it's ratty looking, so it goes on the inside. So what's cool now,
The cool thing, please, are going to come
Why are
to
you not ironing it?
because
I'm
it's
very
going in a
disappointed.
box and it's gonna get creasy.
Yeah, because
Your
again.
selvages aren't showing
The-
either.
Because they look ugly.
the cool thing, police are going to come by and check out your sewing room. The salvages are showing.
She has so much company up there. And
10 demerits for salvage showing.
looking at her.
You guys are so cruel.
20 demerits for
You're
not
gonna make me
ironing.
cry.
Wait, that's like in Harry Potter. It's the house games. You get 10 points for House Gryffindor because your salvages don't show.
Okay, well, now what I'm doing is I'm just rolling it on my little board. See, I'm making a little bolt. I am ignoring. You guys are mean to me tonight.
Well, that's what when
And when I get near the end,
you'll be happy to know that my mother, we went round and round how to fold fat quarters for the store
yeah, there's the,
because she did not like the salvages showing, and
Yeah,
and she would
okay,
fold it so
see?
there would be no raw edges.
yeah, I'm with
So
her on that.
you can see.
So did you see
we
how I
still
wrapped
do
the
it that
corner at
way.
the very end? I got near the end and I went, okay, far enough. Now look, this is where you can hide scraps too, that are still big enough to use. I've got and I'm keeping them with the fabric. I don't have to have another spot. I don't have to have another spot. So when I get near the end, I just create this, and this is a little envelope. Now I could even put my pattern in here if it was a project and I had the pattern. See, I could stick that in there too. Then when I get to the end, my tip is do not use something that's going to rust. Do not, do not, do not, because you will regret it. So either use a really good pin, or could you hand me one of those quilter pins? This is what I really like to use, but make sure it's a good one, not a cheesy one. It's one of those quilter pins,
Basting pin.
basting pin, yeah,
Yeah, with a little curve, the curved
with
basting
a little
pin.
curve to it. And truthfully, if you're using the boxes, you don't even need to pin it. You can just stick it in the box. But there you have it. It's ready to go.
That was
on the
exciting.
Nice. Very nice.
And then you can just
Thank you.
line all your.
Maybe I'll take my magazine racks home.
Magazine
My
boards
magazine
Yeah.
boxes.
with the boxes. And then think about it, when you're working on something, you can just take the box out.
Yeah.
And you just set it there and you're good to go.
Better than putting them in the drawer like I did.
You see that's why I
That's me. That's me. That's my turbo tip. Okay, I can see,
See
I
that?
haven't convinced anybody, but
Well,
I like it.
well see I do
It's great.
I do
I
all
like
my
it, I
sewing here
use
at the
it.
shop. So what I do is I just take the bolt off the shelf and cut it because I'm spoiled.
Yeah. Well, that's
And
what
then-
I do. That's what I do. I
And
just
then-
take it off the bolt.
And then Danny yells at me because the inventory's off.
Yes.
Well, that's what I do. And if I had little pieces like this for a project, if I was wrapping these, I'd wrap these on a board too. I would just wrap more than one on a board because they're all going in here together because they're project related. But I would still wrap them and put them on the board.